Self-esteem affects how we think about ourselves, how much love we're able to receive, and how we treat others, especially in intimate relationships. Today, on Our Space, we see how self-esteem issues can totally disintegrate it from the inside out. In our first story, we see how self-esteem suffers when you grow up in a dysfunctional family or with toxic parenting. Caught my wife cheating with our neighbor. Almost 2 years ago. I, male 34, caught my wife, female 34, with our neighbor's boyfriend. I was so devastated because I thought she would never do this to me. It had took me a while, but I got over it, but it was clear my kindness was taken for weakness. It makes me feel like you can't be nice to other people these days, especially if you can't be loving to your wife. Me and my wife had been married for 7 years, and I just loved her more and more. She was the nicest person you could meet and would give a homeless person on the street a sandwich if she could. She was genuinely a kind person, and that made me lucky to be with her. My wife was always supportive even when COVID hit, and we got our hours cut and lost my job. Then when it had settled down, we started working crazy hours to get caught up. If there was anything I didn't want to do, it was let her down or disappoint her. I always called her my better half because at the time, that's what she was. I was the one that might cause a problem in the house, and as the woman of the house, she would reel me in sometimes. She had good looks, character, and she was patient. If there was anything I would point out as bad, it was that she was raised in a toxic household. It was more like house full of drama. Honestly, my wife's parents would always party and hang out, leaving her older sister, Elena, to take care of them. When her sister got older, she started doing the same things. I guess my wife had decided there's no sense in both of them being crazy. It fell apart, thanks to our neighbor, Tina, and her bad excuse for boyfriend, Vince. I didn't really know Vince, but I was able to meet him at her son's birthday party. He seemed like he always had to point out how much of a man he was when me and my wife attended the party. The thing about Vince that kinda rubbed me the wrong way was when my other neighbors who talked to him said he was a womanizer. He would brag to other women about one-night stands he would have, and Tina would argue with him about her suspensions. I would never really got too involved because Tina was my wife's friend. Plus, I knew a few people who went through what she's going through. But she won't seem to leave him, or she'll take him back. I don't know why Tina would take him back if she knew and her heart vent always cheats on her. I think it's the fact that she already has a 10-year-old son, and she is kind of overweight. It looks like she has low self-esteem, but I thought one day she'd stand up for herself and just didn't. But after their last fight, it looked like he was being faithful for a long time. We haven't heard nothing bad about their relationship. I found out the affair on early Friday in the middle of spring. I work on an assembly line, and my wife works at the office of an elementary school. Her sister's kids go to. My job was throwing a lunch event, and the big bosses were there. When lunch came, we ate hamburgers and hot dogs. After a while, our supervisor thanked us for all the extra hours we put in to get the work caught up and to enjoy the rest of her day. I got confused and asked my coworker if he was going home early. He said I could stay if I want, but he was going home. I never knew this, and this was definitely good news to me, and I ended up leaving to get back home. Getting to go home in a real good mood, I honestly didn't know what to do with my day. When driving down my street, I saw my wife's car in Tina's driveway. This confused me because she was supposed to be at work. I knew Tina and my wife supposed to be working on her garden in the backyard, so I thought she took the day off to help. I decided since I had the rest of the day off, I would make good on my promise to help in the garden instead of only it being them and Vince. Pulling on our driveway, I took off my work clothes and decided to help. Tina lived down the street from us, so I had just walked down the street to get there. When I had arrived in the driveway, I saw my wife had some flowers in the back, which explained why she drove instead of walking. But it was weird because I didn't see Tina's car. When I went in the back, I didn't see anybody. I went in a sitting area where the garden was, and I saw Vince's shirt on the end of the chair and my wife's phone was in the dirt where the garden was supposed to be. I assumed they must be in the house, so I had entered through the back door to try and find them. They weren't in a living room or a dining room, so I went upstairs. When I went upstairs, I could hear something in Tina's bedroom. Getting halfway down the hall, that's when I could clearly hear them. And it was obvious what was going on. I ended up leaving very frustrated and angry. I walked back home in both anger and disbelief. There was barely anybody I trusted more than my wife. And I was being cheated on. In my rage, I knew our marriage was over. Once she got home, I planned to end it, and it was definitely a long wait. The first thing I wanted to do was snatch her phone away for evidence of her affair with Vince and then show the proof to Tina. About 3 hours passed when she finally came in. When she did, I created her at the door, like nothing was wrong. She asked me why I was home early, and I said we had finished all the work. I asked her how her day was, and she lied about being at work, then helping Tina with her garden. After the small talk, I asked her, did she still have the picture of her sister Alina's son at school, and that I wanted to send it to my mom. When she pulled her phone out and then opened it, I had snatched it from her hand and made a mad dash to the bathroom. She chased after me screaming, but I made it into the check her text messages. While she screamed and cried, I was totally heartbroken by the evidence. In the text messages, it seemed purely physical. And she complimented him a lot. She even said she didn't recognize the woman in the mirror anymore. But she liked it. I sent a lot of this to my phone while she was banging on the door. And when I came out, she was begging for her phone back. I told her I caught her and Vince at his house, and I verbally destroyed her. It got to the point that I was in tears. I asked her how she could do this, and she just cried and said I didn't know. I told her I know it's been going on for about 6 months. So I want a better answer than that. She still said she didn't know, and then it just happened when she was working in the garden with Tina and Vince. I asked her what he said to her, and she cried and refused to give me an answer. She begged me not to tell Tina, but I said I was definitely telling her what happened. I told her if she doesn't want me to tell my sister, she needs to pack her stuff and leave because we were over with. She gathered some stuff and left immediately to her mother's house, and after that, all I could do was suffer this huge loss. The next day, I went to tell Tina about what I saw and show her the text messages. Sitting in her living room, I showed her. And she let out a kind of defeated sigh. She thanked me for showing her and said she was going to have a talk with Vince when she gets home. When she said this, it wasn't what I wanted to hear. I told her that this was proof that she was right about Vince, but she said again that when he got in, they were going to have a discussion. I asked, does this mean she was going to leave Vince? And she said she wasn't going to stand for this, and she was going to let him know it. Thought with the evidence. She was finally going to dump Vince, but I could tell he was going to get away with it again. And that made me angry. I left it alone and just got up and left. Since she didn't have the backbone to leave Vince. I went home angry because I was hoping there would be consequences for him getting caught. After that, there was nothing more to do except get a divorce. After the divorce, me and my ex-wife sold the house and we just went our separate ways. I had told our friends and family and sent them the proof because I know that she would be believed if she said I was the bad person. Me and my wife always supported her sister Elena. So when her sister needed her, she let her move in with her for a while. From what I hear, the two of them are inseparable now, and that's not a good thing. She even put a picture of them on Facebook, looking drunk, saying her sister is the only one who has her back. To be honest, it was my brother who got me to write about this situation because kind of blew my mind recently talking about her. He said he was worried at first because he didn't like her older sister and that she might eventually act like her. I think he was right on this because she still admired her sister. Her sister being wild and rebellious didn't help her in the long run, but I guess the apple didn't fall too far from the tree for sure. Our community comments start off with, hey, hi, ho ho, yes. Treating a cheater nicely and expecting future results to change as a mistake 100% of the time. Sienna Bronze adds, glad you divorced her. Now she lives a life of drunkenness. You don't need that kind of trauma. May you find a trustworthy woman? Admirable Ad 801 says, great post, and I'm glad your brother asked if you complied. Every single betrayed spouse on here knows we are not casting gold. We are human. We have flaws. The thing is, cheating is a choice. She chose him with every button she undid to have sex with him. She chose him when he bragged himself up about being more of a man. She knew he was belittling you. She allowed that. The neighbor that told you of his womanizing probably knew your wife was being banged by him. People do not want to get involved, but they probably wanted you to at least suspect. The afternoon you got off was karma's way of outing her. You do not feel it. But that was the day her abusing you was brought back into balance. Cheaters do not think it, but I see it as do others. You deserve to know. You are awesome, bro. You conducted yourself like a gentleman with decorum and dignity when you heard them in the bedroom. That one instance shows you are better than both of them. You did not turn violent. They say when you are alone and under pressure, that which you defaults to determines your character. You were alone in there hearing your wife betray you, but you had the dignity to excuse yourself. You're the type of guy that you want next to you when things go bad. As to your ex, she's a broken human. She had a mask on, but when she was alone and a fair partner put the pressure on, she defaulted to who she really was. I'm so proud of men and women like you, people who hold themselves to high value and moral outlook. When you summarily ended this again, it shows your unwavering commitment to being a good person. You also criticize and evaluate yourself. That shows you are trying to be better. You will have your dream and it will be happy. Your ex is what she is, broken and drunk. You walked. If you want to see misery, go see your wife's ex-best friend who again tried with your wife's affair partner. She will have been regretting her life over and over. You're regretting time lost. You're regretting lies, but you never will regret your own worth. You proved in every instance, you were a good person. Sick has a quick ad. Another cheater caught up showing up home early. Anyone in a relationship should consider doing that from time to time. Also, pay close attention to your partner's friends and family. More times than not, the apple doesn't fall far. You go out with no kids, so even though things suck now, you can make a clean break. Wow, OP, I'm so sorry. It sounds like your ex-wife definitely has some demons that she never fully dealt with from her earlier years. I think sometimes this makes people more susceptible to triggers and living out their desires. She was looking for answers outside of herself. Healed people don't do that. They're satisfied with themselves. She clearly wasn't happy with herself for a long time, and unfortunately, that meant she made some choices, which led to infidelity. I think you really gave her too much credit, and it seemed like you didn't fully respect or love yourself enough. We can look at our partners and think they're absolutely angelic and heaven-sent, but the only reason we put them on pedestal is because we have self-esteem issues. You handle the situation so well. Much better than a lot of people out there. Although this was super unfortunate. I really hope you walk away from this seeing yourself as an amazing individual with so much to offer. What did you think? Would you have stayed? Raising your self-esteem increases your happiness and improves relationship satisfaction for both you and your partner, but what happens when your partner doesn't have a higher self-esteem? Like our next op. Found out my boyfriend has been cheating on me for a year. Is it even possible or worth it to move forward? I, 25 female, recently found out that my boyfriend, 27 male, has been cheating on me for our entire year-long relationship. A few nights ago in his car, he was showing me pictures of his dog on his phone, and I stumbled across a bunch of nudes from a girl. I had never been the type to snoop. He received a phone call from the ex the night before when we were together, so I couldn't ignore any more red flags. All in the car, I discovered more and more evidence of his talking to other girls sexually, and he continued to lie and deny. I discovered so much evidence. I took his phone home for 2 days and sifted through every app, then he finally came clean. After 2 full days of him lying about deleted messages with his friends, messages to sex workers requesting a myriad of things, and to meet up and paying a sex worker to sleep with him right before our relationship. He finally admitted to sexting and sending receiving nude pictures from 5 girls throughout the course of our relationship intermittently for months. At this point, he's been swearing up and down that he's had no physical contact with anyone else, and that he thought it wasn't a bad idea because it wasn't in person. However, I'm finding that hard to believe considering the lengths he's gone to lie to me, the amount of time it took to pull any truthful information out of him, and his obvious lack of integrity. He admitted to me that this has been going on for the entire relationship and said he had justified it in his head because I still have 2 platonic friendships with exes, which made him feel insecure, both of which I have had no romantic involvement with in over 3 years. Have shown him our messages and introduced him to also per his request. I never spent time with them one-on-one and even recently stopped contact. One of them simply because he said dealing with more than one was too much. I was committed to him, and if it really was for the betterment of our relationship, I was willing to make that change for him. Notably, he has always been super insecure, jealous, about any contact with most men because of the amount of male attention I get, which I have never entertained. But since I respected him and wanted to make him comfortable, I have gone to great and to be honest, unnecessary lengths, tailoring my behavior to fit his comfort. Another discovery I made while searching his phone was his unbelievably large collection of adult videos. I have known about his addiction to pornography for a while, but it didn't know the extent until I saw thousands of saved content in his phone and his consistent communication with sex workers. I have never judged him for this issue. I have nothing against porn or sex workers itself, but I had no idea he was involved to this extent. I have no doubt that he has a serious problem and needs to see a therapist for this. Outside of this discovery and his jealousy, our relationship has been almost perfect, and he's cared for me in ways I didn't even know were possible. He has treated me like a queen so much that my friends always comment on how obsessed he is with me and how incredibly storybook his adoration for me is. We'd begun to plan our lives together, and he's been fronting the bill for most things since he encouraged me to quit my job that was destroying my mental health and regroup. I couldn't believe he'd do this to me in a 1,000,000 years. I truly loved him and saw myself building a long-lasting future with him. I've been in several long-term relationships, and this undoubtedly was one I was willing to go to the end with. In his teary remorse, he says he wants to be the man he knows he can be. He loves me more than anything, is deeply ashamed, and is taking the steps to go to counseling and control his impulses. But is this really the whole truth? Has he done something worse and is still hiding things? At this point, I'm not sure he's capable of doing right, and he definitely doesn't deserve my trust. But of course, in this moment, I still love him. I need advice. I hate him and what he's done to us. How he's embarrassed and disrespecting me over and over again by sexting. Gaslit me over his red flags I've observed and vehemently criticize my platonic friendships. What do I do? This whole situation makes me sick and heartbroken, knowing he has lied to my face, exposed himself to other people, solicited nudes and sex-ed them. This isn't the first relationship where I've been cheated on, but this is the first time I felt like I can't let this relationship go. See what the community thinks. Melika Tanta says, nope, he's still lying. One rule you can live by is that cheaters are gonna cheat. And your boyfriend is a cheater. The best thing you can do for yourself is leave and never look back. He probably is sorry he hurt you, but he's even more sorry he got caught. I can guarantee it that he will cheat again and again and again. You can stay and be his doormat, or you can leave and take your self-respect with you. Nita Redesigned says, girl, run. He's only admitted what can be proven. He even blame-shifted you. Professional pilot 45 adds, OP, as the legendary space ghost, 0007, advised his son after his son found out his girlfriend was cheating. I told him dating is much easier than marriage. If they can't be loyal when dating, then they sure as heck will not be when married. This, after SG0007, caught his wife in an affair and divorced her without diverging from his course of action, even though she begged him not to. Move on from him with purpose and determination. Life Yogurt Closet 98 thinks any path forward with that man will only hurt you. Not to mention that every time you are apart, you'll become anxious and nervous. I know you can't snap your fingers and let go, but I'm telling you that holding on will drown you. One more thought from Just Saying 1981. You said in your post that he justified it in his mind. He's always going to find a way to justify it in his mind, and you'll always be suspicious due to how it all came to light. I don't want to go immediately to leave him because I've seen relationships survive and come out stronger. But if you stay, you need to be able to let everything in the past go and move forward completely trusting him. Neither of you will be happy if you hold on to any suspicion. He'll always feel like he's failing because you don't or can't trust him, and you'll always be wondering, whatever your decision is, do it with a clear conscience and stick to it. Don't waffle back and forth. If you leave, leave completely, but if you stay, stay wholeheartedly. First of all, I think it's totally irrational for him to say that he justified it because you have two platonic friends and it made him insecure. Excuse me? How is that your fault? Sounds like he needs to do a lot of work on himself. Usually when a partner's super jealous or suspicious of who we are hanging out with, it means they are guilty of doing something themselves. They're projecting their feelings onto us. Second of all, we shouldn't have to tailor ourselves to fit someone else's comfort level. We shouldn't be walking on eggshells afraid to hurt someone else's feelings. That's not how relationships work. We should feel comfortable to be our truest and best selves at every moment in a relationship. And if we can't do that, the relationship is based on lies and falsities, and it'll never work out. It'll eat away from the inside out. It's okay to still love him. But it's definitely time to move on. If you don't let go, you're going down with the ship, and it'll beat the death of everything that makes you your incredible self. Don't let this guy kill you. Should she stay or should she go? Tell Opie what you think in the comments below. And thank you for joining us today on our space. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell. Also, please let us know what you thought of today's content.